Steven Crowder has announced on Instagram that he will not be having a show this morning as he crosses some T's and dots some I's pertaining to legal issues having to do with Twitter. Because Steven Crowder was suspended for 7 days from Twitter, so he can't tweet, he can't retweet, he can't like. And they did not give him a reason. On Instagram, we can see this from Steven Crowder. We've temporarily limited some of your account features. He says, no Louder with Crowder show this morning so that we can cross some T's, dot some I's. We're working on a major legal update. Hint, it's Twitter. And we'll have half Asian lawyer Bill Richmond on tomorrow for a barely legal update. As we can see here, we have the standard Twitter suspension message. And then he posts this. It says, wow. Hi, Steven Crowder. Your account as Crowder has been locked. Sorry, I can't say, it's hard to see the C, for violating the Twitter rule, specifically for, and there's nothing there. We have the story from The Blaze, but this segment, it's not about Steven Crowder. It's not about Steven Crowder. I was actually preparing to do a segment on Mumford and Sons and Barry Weiss, formerly of the New York Times, who wrote about how parents are meeting in secret to discuss ideas that go against the orthodoxy because they're scared if their schools find out that they are pushing back on the woke psychosis, they'll be canceled. Their reputations will be damaged. Their jobs will be damaged. Their children could be put at risk at school. And then sure enough, as I'm putting this together, the general idea being they are seeking to scare us and suppress us and make sure we do not speak. They want you humiliated, like they did with the guy from Mumford and Sons. The story there is that apparently the banjo player tweeted out, hey, good on you, Andy. No, it's brave to write a book about Antifa. And they attacked him. And he bent down, started sobbing and crying, saying, I'm so sorry. Please. He begged for forgiveness. Reminds me of the Joker scene in The Dark Knight, where Joker walks into the room full of all of the, gangsters. And he goes, a year ago, nobody would dare touch you. What happened? Your balls drop off? What happened to these people who used to be punk rock stars who would stand up and say, oh, get out of here. I can say what I want. F you. What happened to the comedians who would get up on stage and say whatever they wanted? We still have them. Don't get me wrong. Like, you got Joe Rogan, obviously, and Dave Chappelle and Ricky Gervais. They do a good job of it. And Ryan Long, obviously. But I'm going through the story. And then sure enough, what do I see? They suspended Steven Crowder. Listen, they've gone after Crowder often. But the dude is clearly not a racist. He is clearly a political comedian and commentator who is edgy. We don't know why they even suspended him. There's a couple of reasons if you look at the news. But I bring this up because, for one, I think Crowder being one of the biggest voices pushing back on the censorship and the manipulation, it's significant when they try and shut him down. Now, I think the reason they haven't outright banned him, though he was banned from the YouTube Partner Program for some time, is because you go after the guy from Mumford and Sons, and then what? What's going to happen? Is the banjo player from Mumford and Sons going to go on his massive show to 1 million plus people and be like, no, stand up against this? He's not. If they outright ban Crowder, he's going to go on YouTube. He's going to get the message out, and it's going to cause a massive uproar, which could cause a wave of action and energy they can't control. So they have to do it in increments. They have to do it very, very slowly. Here's a story from The Blaze. Twitter suspends Steven Crowder's account without any explanation. Behold the modern public square, they report. In what may serve as just the latest example of big tech's targeting of conservatives, Twitter has suspended the account of popular Blaze TV host Steven Crowder without explanation. Crowder confirmed the suspension to the Blaze Tuesday afternoon, adding that he had been locked out of his account since earlier in the morning and that the company never informed him as to why it took the action against him, saying, quote, no idea why Twitter locked me out, as in the allotted category where they would include said information was left blank. He told the Blaze, behold the modern public square, ever the thespian, Stephen. The Blaze reached out to Twitter seeking an explanation for the suspension, but did not receive a reply in time for publication. Crowder, who has frequently criticized modern big tech monopolies such as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube for their unabashed censorship and suppression of conservative voices, was suspended from Twitter for about 12 hours last month, reportedly for alleging instances of voter fraud. The conservative political commentator has characterized big tech censorship as one of the most important issues facing the country, and he is right, and I agree. While it is not known whether the incident is connected to the suspension, on Monday, Crowder reposted a 5-year-old video on his Twitter account in recognition of International Women's Day. In the video, he dressed up as a transgender woman and goes to exercise at a Planet Fitness, setting off the lunk alarm twice for dropping weights. I guess the video reportedly sparked some outrage on the platform. I agree with the assessment to a certain degree. This is likely the reason that they issued the suspension. But when you go over to Google and you search for Steven Crowder, there are actually a bunch of stories saying controversial YouTuber uses disgusting racial slurs. There's a bunch of stories basically saying he used that racial slur. And you know what, man? I don't believe him. I really don't. You see, when the whole thing happened with that guy from Vox, whose name I'm not going to say, what they did was they took statements from Crowder out of context. So you had this guy basically referring to himself with a variety of slurs. Crowder then said, so this guy says he's a whatever, this guy is a whatever, because the guy was saying it. They then attribute that to Crowder himself. So imagine someone tells you that they're a firefighter and you're like, okay, Mr. Firefighter, well then tell me. And like, aha, you said those words. Obviously, I'm not going to say what those words actually are, and I'll use firefighter as a stand-in, but you get the point. The point here with all of this, and the bigger story I want to talk about was humiliation, propaganda, and censorship. So yes, Crowder is I believe, one of the most significant stories in this regard. But this was a story we saw on the 7th. Mumford & Sons banjo player slammed on social media for supporting right-wing author. Now, this guy, apparently, I don't know if he tweets or whatever, but his entire Twitter account was wiped. And it's just some tweet where it's basically like, I'm so sorry, I hurt everyone's feelings. That's what they want. That's what they want. If you don't give them that, well, then they'll suspend you and they'll try and remove you. The way I explained it before, in the past several years is that imagine we're all on this, island that's elevated by, it's 100 feet up. It's this big plateau surrounded by water and the waves are crashing at all sides and the cliffs erode. You have the far right. The waves crash into it, the cliffs erode, and they all fall and drop down into the water. Now you have right-wing individuals who are standing at the precipice. The waves crash into that, the cliff erodes, and they all fall down into the water. And then you have moderate conservatives. Now the moderate conservatives are the far right. And as the waves keep crashing, people keep falling in. They want you suppressed. They want you huddling for warmth, begging the left to please let us in before the cliffs erode. And how many YouTube personalities did this? I don't need to say their names, but many of you probably know who they are. Very anti-woke, anti-critical race theory. All of a sudden, it turns out they're liberals. All of a sudden. This is what they want. The goal is to keep you humiliated and scared and suppress your ability to talk about ideas. And you know what? I'm sick of these people who seem to think, well, so long as I speak, quietly and behind the scenes and tell people how I feel, we'll keep persisting. No, you won't. No, you won't. Disney just announced they're barring children from watching certain movies, certain classic movies like Dumbo and Peter Pan. If you want to watch it, you have to have an adult profile, and it comes with a warning. What does that mean? Well, the parents will say something like, well, it's fine because I can turn the movie on for my kids if they want to watch it. They're taking away the agency of the kids who would actually do it themselves, who would be watching Disney Plus and be like, I'm going to watch Dumbo. Then the kids will grow up, many of them not having seen this. It is all about increments. Take a look at this absolutely pathetic display. Now, I feel bad. I feel bad from this guy, Winston Marshall from Mumford & Sons, because it was brave of him to tweet out that he liked Andy Ngo's book. For those that aren't familiar, Andy Ngo challenged Antifa, reporting on them more honestly than you'll get from much of the mainstream media. And this guy tweeted out in support of that. That was brave. He should have known what was going to happen. And instead of standing up for himself, he bowed down like a sobbing and weeping coward. What happened? Rock stars used to say what they wanted. They used to smash hotel rooms, smash their guitars. Jabals drop off. Here's the Hollywood Reporter. They say, in a now deleted tweet, Winston Marshall praised brave Andy Ngo for his book on Antifa's radical plan to destroy democracy. Winston Marshall, the banjo player and lead guitarist of the Grammy-winning British band Mumford & Sons, has been slammed after tweeting his support for controversial right-wing writer Andy Ngo. I love how they do that. Controversial. Simply because a group of activists say, I don't like you, doesn't make you controversial. No, a conservative journalist who rose to prominence filming left-wing protests in Portland has become notorious for his associations with the neo-fascist white nationalist groups, the Proud Boys and Patriot Prayer. No, he hasn't. That's absolutely insane. But they don't want you to know the truth. That's it. And that's why I'll tell you the worst thing in the world. I think Winston Marshall Winston, I hope you're hearing this. What you did is one of the most pathetic, cowardly acts I have ever seen, and is one of the most damaging things anyone could have ever done to the ideas of freedom, respect, liberty, liberalism, nonviolence, peaceful protest. You see, what you did was prove that people will beg on their knees, weeping like sobbing children for forgiveness for their transgressions. You could have said nothing and it would have been better. But instead, you have dropped to your knees crying, showing how pathetic and weak people really are or can be. And this shows many people. Instead of seeing a brave individual say, shove it. I read books that I want to read. And if I want to tell someone to read it, too bad. You said, I'm so sorry, please. I just want money. Is that it? I would rather sleep under a bridge covered in my own waste in a trench coat, just slovenly shivering, knowing that I stood up for what I believed in and refused to back down, than to beg to these psychopaths who burn down cities. It is sad. It is pathetic. And it is damaging to the ideas that you supposedly were professing. It's almost like you did it on purpose so that you'd show everybody when you stand up for what you believe in, you will be attacked and you will cower in fear. You know what? Stephen Crowder ain't doing that. He's close to the bandwagon and he's teetered on the edge of it before. They say, in a now deleted tweet, Marshall, who also goes by the music aliases Country Winston and WN5TN, congratulated No on the publication of his book Unmasked, which promises to take the reader inside Antifa's radical plan to destroy democracy. Quote, finally had the time to read your important book. You're a brave man, Marshall tweeted, before deleting the message following a backlash and intense mockery of the band. One user wrote in a similarly deleted reply to Marshall's tweet, I may be naive, but banjo player from Mumford & Sons comes out as Nazi was not a headline I foresaw. No, but he does come out as a whining, sniveling coward. I was sympathetic. I was empathetic at first. I saw this and I was like, man, that's a bummer, because the dude was trying to speak up to support Andy No and the work he's done. And instead, what he ends up doing is standing there crying, snot dripping from his nose, desperately begging for what? For what apparently, I guess he's like, let me show you his statement. He tweeted this. Over the past few days, I have come to better understand the pain caused by the book I endorsed. I have offended not only a lot of people I don't know, but also those closest to me, including my bandmates. And for that, I am truly sorry. As a result of my actions, I am taking time away from the band to examine my blind spots. Good. You deserve to lose your job because you have no spine. I don't mean it literally. It's just cancel culture is a bad thing. Here's what I say for now. Please know that I realize how my endorsements have the potential to be viewed as approvals of hateful, divisive behavior. I apologize, as this was not at all my intention. He got kicked out of the band. Canceled. You see, that's exactly the message they want everyone to see, which is why you, sir, are a spineless loser who is destroying the fabric of freedom, our right to freedom, free speech, freedom of association, and to challenge those who would threaten us with violence. So long as cowards like Winston Marshall exist, we will all be worse off for it. Antifa goes around smashing windows, burning down buildings. They brutally beat Andy No in the street, leaving him covered in blood and with broken teeth. And Andy No still had the courage to put up his middle finger and write this book. And you couldn't even put out a tweet. You couldn't even defend a tweet. You did put out a tweet. I'll give you that much. And now you're taking time away from the band. Good. I hope Mumford & Sons just falls apart because you do not have... I'm sick of these people who are supposed to be leaders of industry, entertainment. I'm not suggesting the Mumford & Sons guys are politically relevant, but these are people who are standing on the stage that we all look at. We do take examples from them. Not necessarily, again, I'm not trying to stress and act like, the top of the mountain is Mumford & Sons. No, that's probably the president. And by all means, we can criticize Trump for his behaviors for sure. But Mumford & Sons is still a band that a lot of people follow. When you saw during the Trump campaign in 2020, you had rappers endorsing Trump. And a lot of people were like when Kanye did it, a lot of people were like, no, Kanye, what are you doing? It's like, I'll do what I want. And then you had a bunch of young people basically say that, I trust Kanye. And if he's about this, I'm right there with him. These people, whether or not anyone wants to accept it, are thought leaders to a certain degree. Kanye is very outspoken, so he certainly is, whether you like his thoughts or not. Mumford & Sons, not so much, but they're still a prominent and famous band. So when they say things, it does have an impact. This guy dropped to his knees, absolutely dropped to his knees. Here's the point, and I got another story with Piers Morgan. I'll show you how bad it can really get. They want to make sure you do not stand up for yourself. They want to make sure that you suffer, you are humiliated, and that's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. Take a look at this from Jake Tapper. This is what happens when you live in a country where there is no First Amendment. Insanity. From Variety, UK media regulator Ofcom launched an investigation after more than 41,000 people complained about Piers Morgan comments on Meghan Markle. That's absolutely insane. Piers Morgan, Meghan Markle comments being investigated by UK media regulator Ofcom. Good for Piers Morgan. Good for him. He's actually done a pretty good job standing up for himself. Apparently he walked off the show. He's quitting. You know what he said? And I do not care about the royal family, seriously. But this is an issue of freedom of speech, our right to express ourselves. Piers Morgan said he did not believe Meghan Markle. And you know what? Neither do I. I did not watch her interview with Oprah. I do not care all that much. But I learned it reading this story. He is now being investigated and out of a job. They say UK media regulator Ofcom has launched an investigation after more than 41,000 people wrote in to complain about ITV's Good Morning Britain host Piers Morgan's comments on Meghan Markle. On Monday's edition of the show, Morgan said he did not believe Markle's statement about mental health, which she made during her and Prince Harry's interview with Oprah Winfrey, which was broadcast in the U.S. Sunday evening. Markle said that she had approached people in the royal institution for help after she had suicidal thoughts, but was turned down. He said, "Who did you go to? What did they say to you? I'm sorry, I don't believe a word she said. I wouldn't believe it if she read me a weather report," Morgan said on the show. I agree with Piers Morgan. I cannot envision any scenario where anyone, even a little boy, randomly off the street, in pauper clothes with a cane, would walk up to anyone in the royal institution and say, "Please, I need help. I'm suffering or something." They'd be like, "Okay, let me call someone." Meghan Markle says that she was turned down. That's insane. So I don't know. I think Piers is right. Quote, "We have launched an investigation into Monday's episode of Good Morning Britain under our harm and offense rules," an Ofcom spokesperson told Variety. "They are coming for the royal family, and I quite literally mean they are coming for the Queen as well." So I jokingly tweeted, "Impeach Queen Elizabeth," because I'm making fun of everything that's going on. And everybody seemed to get it. The Brits were like, "Leave the Queen alone," knowing I'm not serious. You can't impeach the Queen. But think about what's happening. Piers Morgan defended the royal institutions from an American, a woke American. And the media goes to the defense of the woke American. But the British industry, the British Ofcom regulator, defends the American woke actress, criticizing the royal family. That is bold. It's only a matter of time before the Queen gets canceled herself. I guess she's abdicating the throne soon, but the royal family's on the way out, I guess. Maybe a lot of Brits don't want to hear it, but when you can't stand up to an American actress, when she accuses you of bigotry and things like that, because the media will attack you for it, the dogmatic cult of the woke is spreading, and it's becoming more and more prominent and powerful, which is why it's very important that people like Steven Crowder are allowed to be edgy and make offensive jokes and comedy. And if you don't like it, don't watch it. When Steven did that video he posted where he dressed up like a woman, I guess, I didn't laugh. I don't know. I more cringed. I just wasn't a fan. That's it. I've criticized Crowder on a variety of issues, and Crowder has me on his show, and I talk to him every so often because I think reasonable adults can be like, "I may disagree with you, but hey, do your thing." I just don't watch it. I mean, I did watch it. I watched it and I was like, whatever. I think Crowder does a lot of stuff I enjoy. He does a pretty good job. But I don't think even Crowder would point out there's probably things about me that we're critical of, or that he would be critical of. And so when reasonable, mature adults see something they don't like or hear something they don't agree with, they say, "I disagree." And that's it. When I see Crowder do something, I'm like, "I disagree." But it's ever more important to make sure that people have the right to express themselves. If you don't like what Crowder is doing or saying, aren't you glad he shared with you what he does so you can now understand what you don't like about it? No, they want to hide it all and shove it all under the rug. The worst part of all of this, Piers Morgan leaving the show, is bad because he was an influence pushing back on a lot of the BS. Not anymore. Now you've gotten the Mumford and Sons guy. He tried to stick, he tried to stick his neck out, and I can respect it. But then he falters like a coward. He couldn't hold the line. Dude, you're out of the band already. Just say F you. I'll do what I want. I'm just sick and tired of these people who have no spines. So my props to Crowder, because he certainly does. He's going to find himself getting banned because he keeps pushing the envelope. He's pushing them buttons, and he's refusing to back down. Even tweeting out about voter fraud and getting suspended for it, he's not backing down. We need more of that. We do. And if you don't like someone, you think they go too far, well, you criticize them for it. But there has to be some kind of space. Now, let me just, I want to add on the end of this, when they cancel books like Dr. Seuss, when they say they're not going to publish anything anymore, I actually don't care about that. I am not going to scream, how dare Dr. Seuss cease publication on 6 books, because many things don't get made anymore. There are many depictions of art at, companies, and they say, I don't want to do this anymore because it's not selling well, and, we're getting heat for it. I don't care. I do care that eBay bans the private sale of these things. I do care that libraries say they won't carry these things anymore. Bookstores saying we're not going to allow these to be sold, period. That's going too far. It's going too far. You can still go on Amazon and eBay and buy old racist advertisements and books. So it seems like they're trying to get rid of certain dissidents. That's it. They want to create a monoculture where they control the narrative. And that means censorship will come for you. It will come from me. It will come from Mumford and Sons, and it will come for Piers Morgan. And it's only going to get worse. I'll briefly just mention, Barry Weiss wrote a couple really interesting articles, the self-silencing majority, but also the miseducation of America's elites, affluent parents terrified of running afoul of the new orthodoxy in their children's private schools, organize in secret. Stop organizing in secret. Start standing up and yelling it from the high heavens. I will not back down. Take your kids out of these schools. Stop being cowards. Just speak. Use your voice before you lose your voice. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. I'll see you then. Thanks for hanging out.